Hey, welcome back, everyone. It's the Viking Central podcast. It's week 10. We have an exciting guest with us. We got Ken McKusick from Filmstudy. It's a Ravens podcast that I had the pleasure of being on here just a couple days ago that aired today. So I'm going to go ahead and with no further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce him. So we've been advertising it again. If you want to follow Ken and everything that he's doing at Film Study, go ahead and follow him at Film Study Ravens on X. And again, I'm more than happy to have other guests on the show with coming up weeks that we have on the schedule, and just taking a look at our schedule real quick before I bring Ken on. So if we have other podcasts that are out there, or you have suggestions that you'd like to see on the Viking Central podcast, upcoming schedule, we have Bears, Packers, Seahawks, Commanders, Cowboys, Giants, Lions, and Packers again. So path to the playoffs for the Vikings, we probably need six, probably at least six of these remaining games to be wins. So we'll take a look at that. We'll break down today's game, or tomorrow's game, I should say, versus the Ravens with Ken. But the schedule isn't as daunting. It's still one of the strongest strength of schedules remaining. It's second in the league now. We were first after we got past that last week Detroit game, which we ended up winning. Now we go into this week with still one of the hardest remaining schedules in the league. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and bring Ken on stage. Ken, he's actually going to be attending the game tomorrow. So he's traveling to Minnesota. How's Minnesota for you so far, Ken?
Life's good. Great pizza tonight. So enjoyed the night.
Where did you eat? What's the pizza spot?
Pizza Luce, maybe? Luce. Yeah.
Okay, so you did a Google, right? Where's a good pizza place downtown? So Pizza Luce, yes, has great reviews. So that's definitely a good spot for you to hit while you're in town for the game. I think one thing I'll tell you too is the Vikings have really kind of revamped, especially with the new stadium, as far as what it is for pregame and kind of tailgating vibe. So if you have the chance to go down there a little bit early and check that out, I think that that should be enjoyable, even though it's a little bit colder here now. But I still think that'll be fun as long as you wear something that's a little warmer.
I think that's part of the plan.
Absolutely. Now, do you usually attend a lot of the Ravens games as well?
I mean, all of them at home. I have a few of them on the road every year. So
Okay.
we normally go to 11 or 12 games.
And is this your first time to the U.S. Bank Stadium?
No, our second time we went in 2017, and we went in 2009 at the Metrodome when they lost that too. So that we've never seen a win here.
Okay, so your initial thoughts on the stadium, though?
Yeah, nice stadium. I personally don't like a glass letting the light in the stadium. That's very
Sure.
bothersome to me personally in terms of the visual effect of the game. Other than that, I think it's great. Great place, certainly very modern and whatnot.
Okay, so Ken, if you can, please tell us a little bit about your podcast, Film Study, what you do on the podcast. If our viewers, if they didn't have the opportunity yet to listen, you did post it today, the interview that you and I both had for that episode. But what is your podcast, and basically just tell us more about it.
Okay, I go briefly through this, but it still take a little while.
Yep.
Filmstudybaltimore.com is the website. The podcast is Film Study Baltimore Ravens Talk. If you want to look it up on Twitter, or look for Film Study Ken McKusick, and you'll be able to find it very easily. I put out 9 episodes per week. There's a 2-episode review of both the offense and the defense. It's very detailed, each an hour, and then a Know Your Foe episode. Something called One Last Thing, which is a grab bag of things that we don't cover on any other show. We do Friday Morning GM, which is probably one of the most popular shows right now, especially with the Ravens' bad early season. A lot of people are already looking forward to next season. They want to know about trades, or what the Ravens can do to improve the team, or what transactions are occurring and whatnot. So that show is it's a lot about roster building. Really, that is. We had two shows for matchups. And I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting anything, but I think that's 9. So that's it. My work is focused largely on offensive line scoring on a play-by-play basis. So the way PFF does it, I do it differently, but it's the same concept that I score every play for the Ravens. And on the defense, I have a database that goes back to the very beginning of Ravens history with personnel on the field for every play, which I'm able to squeeze and extract data from.
And I was definitely impressed with your line of questioning and how in depth you went as far as into the matchup, whether that be what kind of defensive schemes in certain situations, maybe that the Vikings like to play, because the segment that we did was Know Your Foe. And I think that's definitely what we kind of do, I guess, when I get the opportunity to either have a fan or a different podcast from the opposing team on, is we want to see what you think your team needs to do to try to win the ball game as well. And we can kind of talk back and forth. I'm okay with a little bit of jabs at our team. We've had some stuff on social media here lately too, where some people have been going after our quarterback. But hey, he's young. He's only 22. He got the W on the road, not only at Chicago but now at Detroit. I think those are huge wins. He's 2-1 so far. He's a winning quarterback in what is his rookie season, being he was injured all year last year. So I think we're nothing but excited going forward to find out what we have at quarterback the rest of the way. And that's what we got to do. We got to play our quarterback, see what we have. That way, going into next year, we either have something to build on, or we at least know, hey, we maybe have to look at bringing somebody else. So
You get a lot more value out of that instead of playing Carson Wentz for the year and learning nothing about the 2026 Vikings. That's for sure.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So now on the bottom, it's scrolling on there too. So if you have questions for myself or Ken about tomorrow's matchup, Ravens Vikings, go ahead, put in the comments. So if you're already following us and you're watching this, whether you're on X, YouTube, or Facebook, go ahead and drop us a comment on that social media platform. I'll see it. I'll bring it on the screen, and Ken and I will do our best to try to answer your question or at least acknowledge your comment, as long as it's in good taste. But before we jump into any more, I do want to make sure that I acknowledge as we go through the show our different sponsors that we have. And our first one being That's Badass Wood Art. So That's Badass Wood Art. Luis, he makes great art, different art pieces. And remember, if you're not already following him at that'sbadasswoodart.com, he's also on X. He does usually skull art giveaways each week, so you have to make sure you're following him. Do a retweet, and usually or like it, and you could be selected for that art piece giveaway. He does custom art pieces too, so possibly even Baltimore Ravens art pieces if you're interested, Ken, or any of your fans as well. So go ahead and check. So again, that's Badass Wood Art. Use code VC15 to receive 15% off. All right. So tail of the tape, when we just take a look at these two teams lined up. Now, some of these stats are deceiving for the Ravens and possibly the Vikings, because the Baltimore Ravens did miss some time with not having Lamar Jackson at quarterback, and the Vikings the same, not having JJ McCarthy. So maybe as far as at least the offensive stats, as far as their rankings are per PFF, those could be skewed a little bit one way or the other. But definitely for the Ravens, we know that that's a better team than 16th in the league on offense if they have Lamar Jackson there the entire year. 3-5, Baltimore Ravens, Vikings at 4-4. Both teams, Baltimore Ravens, even just probably more impressive, we're still favored to win the AFC North, even before Lamar came back, when they were sitting at 1-5 at the time.
1-5, they were still favored. That's right.
Still favored. So I mean, that just shows how much respect the rest of the league has for at least the ability of the Baltimore Ravens to be able to win games, and not only win games, win that division and get in the playoffs.
It's a weak division. That's for certain. The comments you made about the Ravens being better than their cumulative ranking so far is certainly true. The Ravens have been without a large number of defensive players. They have a number of guys still on IR. The big three right now being Tavius Robinson, who's a very versatile edge defender who can also kick inside on passing downs. Arjarius Washington, who was lost for the whole year. Well, okay. There's some talk that he might be back in December, but he's probably is lost for the whole year. And that happened in the spring. And then the third one is Nnamdi Banabike, who we're not really sure the nature of the injury. Apparently, he's had some sort of surgery, but the fear is that it's career ending and not just season ending. And so hopefully it's not. Obviously, the Ravens have a lot invested in him, and he's a very central part of their defense. So even though the fact that you see an injury report which has no Ravens on it does not
Right?
mean the Ravens are completely healthy even right now. But they do have Roquan Smith and Marlon Humphrey back. They were big returns, and the defense is improving, and they've made big changes, which I'm sure we'll get into as the show goes on to try and be better.
Absolutely. Those two players are Pro Bowl quality type players. And, when we take a look at just the tail of the tape here lately, especially, in a couple of games that the Vikings have had, uh, our defense is better than 19th. We're just now getting healthy, not only on the offensive line, we're also getting healthier back on the defensive side of the ball as well too. So it's kind of both teams getting healthy for the most part at the right times for themselves. But now they're meeting in a Week 10 showdown, and we're going to get to see at least both of these teams maybe the healthiest they've been all year. Is that accurate, Ken? Other than the IR, of course.
Yeah, the Ravens are probably healthier in week one, but yeah, otherwise.
And then, again, special teams, probably our overall is being held afloat by our special teams. And, that's largely because Will Reichard, other than maybe, crazy cables in London, he's had two missed kicks, field goals. One was a cable. He's been super reliable all year, long distance. And then Miles Price for us, kick returning. He was probably borderline whether or not he would make the team, and he has been one of the most solid pieces to this Minnesota Vikings team. So uh, as long as our special teams have figured out how not to hold on kick and punt returns, that's an opportunity for us versus the Ravens to possibly flip the field and put ourselves in good field position. Obviously, the field position battle in this game is going to be paramount for both teams, but that's one where we maybe have a chance there. Now, special teams 26. What kind of troubles, Ken, do you think the Ravens have had on special teams that maybe is a reason why PFF is ranking them so low?
They've had a variety of problems. I wouldn't say that there's anything that's extreme. Tyler Loop's been very good as a rookie kicker. He did miss one field goal from 53 yards, I think. Otherwise, he's made them all. He did miss an extra point, which cost him a game, cost him a Buffalo game in theory, because they lost the game by 1 point. It was happened earlier than that in the game. What else is going on? They've had a good punt returner. He put the ball on the ground once. It was negated by penalty. He's otherwise returned very effectively. That's LaJonte Wester, who's a rookie. And they've had good kickoff return guys. I would say their punt and kickoff coverage units, their kickoff coverage, maybe more than anything, has been a little bit lacking.
I like to hear that, Ken. Hopefully that gives us an opportunity to maybe sway the way that this football game may go. Now, the next section that I go into, or the next segment that I go into, is going to be featuring, and again, this is just my opinion going into this game as far as the different matchups. But before they do that, I want to go ahead and just recognize our other sponsors that we have too, and SeatGeek. So if you use code Vike Central, you get $20 off any $50 or more purchase. That's eligible for any Vikings games. So if you're going to that Ravens Vikings game tomorrow, you haven't got your tickets, you're still trying to get them, maybe on SeatGeek, go ahead and use that code for any concerts, events that are coming up. Again, Vike Central, that'll get you an extra $20 off any $50 or more purchase. All right, so just jumping into this, and again, this is maybe some Vikings bias going on here. I try not to be as biased as I possibly can, but when I take a look at the different matchups versus the Ravens defense, as far as the Vikings offense versus the Ravens D, JJ McCarthy, I think that matchup, obviously being a rookie and that secondary that the Ravens have, I think is, it's one of the better secondaries in pass coverage, PFF wise. The Ravens are about middle of the pack, ranking around 16 in the league. But that you had mentioned that they're getting Roquan Smith. They just got Roquan Smith back, and they got Marlon Humphrey back as well. And those two are definitely key pieces that help. especially in that pass coverage game, whether that be tight end or wide receivers. So
You
I think it favors the Ravens.
Okay, I mean, I would agree. McCarthy, we talked a little bit about when you were on my show that McCarthy is kind of a back foot passer who has some trouble with pressure coming directly up the middle. I think that is where a lot of the weakness in the Minnesota line is, and it's an opportunity for the Ravens to get in the cone and to get McCarthy back footing some throws. If he does that, if they sail, the Ravens are perfectly capable of picking off that ball in the back end, and hopefully they'll be playing loose bracket coverage where they have a good chance to intercept some overthrows.
Right. Now the next two that I have, I don't think that there's much question as far as, who the matchup favors as far as Justin Jefferson goes. It may be debatable on Jordan Addison because you guys do have a good secondary. I just think, and again, watching the games, being a fan, um, you know, I've seen a lot since Jordan Addison, not only in training camp, but also since he has came back. And he is the one individual that JJ McCarthy has probably developed the most chemistry with. A lot of attention is going to be paid towards Justin Jefferson. And that's one of the reasons why, I would say a matchup favors a Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison in this game. Justin Jefferson, you can double team him, you can provide him, but he's still going to find a way. The Vikings are going to move him around, whether it be at XZ or in the slot, to try to get favorable matchups for him. The big question is whether or not JJ McCarthy can be accurate enough to get the ball to him and give him an opportunity to make a play.
It's one of the keys to the game for the Ravens is how they deal with Jefferson and Addison. They have one of the really great corners in the game in Nate Wiggins, so they do have. They're not short on talent there. Humphrey's been now playing on the outside again. The big change in the Ravens defense was a move to slot from Kyle Hamilton, which provides all sorts of benefits to the Ravens, who I'm sure we'll get into later. I would say the Vikings receivers have an advantage. That said, over the Ravens defensive backs.
Now, one thing I think that we may be able to take advantage in is the Ravens rush defense. And hopefully that is something that we saw last week during the Detroit Lions game, that Aaron Jones, we finally got him back healthy last week. And he was a huge upgrade for us to have both Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason back. But Aaron Jones was not only big in the run game, but he is a threat in the passing game. And I think that's going to be one of the things. If we can be successful in the run game, obviously that's going to help McCarthy. But run defense wise, at least stat wise and PFF grades, the Ravens are towards the bottom of the league. I think that's one of the areas that we can probably try to attack to be successful on the offensive side of the ball.
All right, let me speak to that a little bit, because it's true. All that was basically accumulated versus a different set of Ravens is basically what I'm going to say. First of all, Roquan Smith has missed a lot of time. Kyle Hamilton has not been at the line of scrimmage. That is, I cannot even express to you how important that is. It completely takes away the strong side of the football field for bubble screens, adds an outstanding pass rusher, outstanding run defender. They don't even bother with the coverage component of it really that much. They have ways to deal with that behind him. But he's a looming presence for quarterbacks. He's a pterodactyl. And so if you try and throw over him, you do so at your own peril. And he's had some of his very best plays in his career have been tipping balls or going up for interception of that type. And they'll often will try and bait a quarterback into a throw like that and get him vectorized into a passing lane with the anticipation that the quarterback will see it as wide open. He had one interception against the Browns that way. So, and in terms of the rest of the run game, the Ravens, since early in the season when they were getting run on a lot, they were too small and they had lousy edge defenders in the game. Now they're massive. In fact, they're the heaviest set of three players I think has ever played an NFL game together. The three guys weighed 1,080 pounds together. Three nose tackles who weighed 370, 360, and 350, all on the same roster for the same game. Now they have a couple of smaller guys like that, but they're a small guy for the Ravens is like Brent Urban at 305. And David Bryant will probably play tomorrow, and he weighs about 290. Those guys have been playing an uncovered end role, which to uncovered nickel role. Sorry. Explain what that means. That means you play only one outside linebacker in the game, and you instead play three down linemen. So your five tech is actually kind of playing the edge. And the Ravens have done some good things to scheme in a faster, more penetrating player, and those have been Hamilton and Buchanan that they've used on that edge. So I think this is a game where the Ravens' run defense has a very good chance against what the Vikings can offer.
And I think both teams are going to key on run defense and try to make the other team's quarterback throw. I mean, obviously with the Ravens, and we'll get into that. You guys are a huge threat with a two-headed monster in, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, where you have to contain or attempt to contain both those players to even have a chance at winning the ball game. So,
Yep.
for the Vikings, and if I'm the Ravens, I want to shut down Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason because I want to try to make JJ McCarthy beat you with the arm. So both teams are going to focus on the run game. Absolutely. I think just having a healthy offensive line, that's where we're going to try to be successful. And Kevin O'Connell wants to be successful in the run game. He wants to be committed to the run game, but obviously if the Baltimore Ravens jump out to an early lead, you know, can we stick with the run, So that's going to be important for us to be able to do. Moving on to TJ Hawkinson, I really think that's a tie. You guys get Roquan Smith back as well too. And and again, you just kind of have to factor in, JJ McCarthy's trying to get him the ball. Buchanan and Smith. I think just getting Smith back is huge for you guys as far as trying to cover in the pass game, TJ Hawkinson.
Okay, gotta address this. TJ Hawkinson, if he's up against Kyle Hamilton, is probably the biggest mismatch in the league in terms of. I mean, he could go
if he's covering him. He's covering him,
but if he's in the slot, he will cover him. And the Vikings use a fair amount of 12 with what they do. I think they telegraph their runs. We talked about this a little bit. It's almost always a gap run when they're in 12 or 13. It's almost always a zone run when they're in 11. And so if Hawkinson is not a regular inline guy, right? He's more often flexed than not. Is that correct?
It really depends. We don't have Josh Oliver in right now, and we like to play with two tight end sets as well too. Not having Josh Oliver in this game is affecting a little bit with how the Vikings are going to play with their offense as far as their different sets. So that will affect with how they use TJ Hawkinson or even just how much they use. Nick Vannett may be used to kind of fill in for that Josh Oliver role, but how much?
Vannett an inline guy, or is he more a
inline
flex guy? Inline guy. Okay, so I'm seeing it more as Hawkinson is a flex guy.
Sure.
I don't see the matchup going that way. I don't see the matchup being close.
That's fair. Hey, that's fair. And again, this is just how I see it from my eyes. Now moving on to the Ravens. Again, this is me taking a look at it. Lamar Jackson, obviously, that advantage. I think no matter who you're playing, Lamar Jackson's always going to have that advantage over another team. He showed last week, 4 touchdowns. He doesn't have to run the ball. We talked about this on your podcast as well too. How healthy is he? I know he's not on the injury report, but it just didn't seem like they were using him to run the ball. Obviously, just get Lamar Jackson back. You don't want to break the car when you just got it back from the auto shop, right? But Lamar Jackson, I mean, is he fully healthy?
Probably not, but he needs to show that he can run the ball because it's absolutely critical to everything they do. And Lamar in his career has improved every running back he's ever played with in terms of success rate, and very dramatically so. Henry had a 49% career success rate with Tennessee. It moved up to 59% last year, which was the second highest ever for someone with 300 plus carries. Only Bijan Robinson last year for Atlanta. He's the only other one who's ever been better. And every other, there's such a damning consistency to it that you couldn't possibly draw the conclusion that Henry is improving Lamar. Lamar's improving who Derrick Henry is. And to do that, basically they have to be absolutely cognizant of the fact that Lamar might run the ball. And that mesh point is the most powerful weapon in all of football. The Lamar, Derrick Henry mesh point is, there's no other bigger weapon in the NFL.
Absolutely. And I think early on in Lamar Jackson's career, obviously he had that rap that he wasn't able to be accurate throwing the ball early on. That was the thing. He could just run the ball. That's not the case, and that hasn't been the case for many years now. Lamar Jackson can absolutely, and he showed that last week. He can beat you without having to run. He can throw the ball, and he has more weapons now than he had early in his career.
He has more weapons. He's got the best set of skill position players he's got this year. But if anybody ever really thought Lamar Jackson couldn't throw the ball, just look at the list of the top ever career passer ratings, and Lamar's at the top. He's above Aaron Rodgers. He's above everybody else. So
I believe he's got a 136.
That's this year. I'm talking about career. He's number one. Yeah.
Sure, but even just this year, I mean, he's got a pretty dang close to a perfect rating out on the field. So Lamar Jackson, absolutely, that matchup favors the Ravens. The Vikings are going to try to disrupt Lamar Jackson. I don't want to say similar to what they did Goff, because you can't treat Lamar Jackson like you did Goff, because if he is healthy enough, Lamar Jackson, if he gets outside of the pocket, is the most dangerous thing that a defender wants to see. Because one, can you catch him to bring him down? And two, he still has the ability for some of those receivers to get to their second routes and unload the ball, because he does have some skilled players that can get you deep.
All right, let me talk a little bit about that. So 4 years ago, we were at the game in Miami where Miami ran 40 cover zero blitzes with Flores. And that meant you either had 7 or 8 men at the line of scrimmage threatening to rush the quarterback. Flores would most often use what I call a 5-2 blitz in that game, which means he'd bring 5 of the 7 guys, drop 2. Yep. And incredibly, nose tackle, the guy Butler, what's Butler's first name, was playing for Miami at that time. It's not Malcolm Butler. It's because he's a
quarterback.
No, Adam Butler. Dropped 18 times. A nose tackle who dropped 18 times to cover in one game. Okay, and I expect Flores to at least assimilate some of that game plan, because it's the last time they played the Ravens with Flores coaching. I expect them to assimilate at least some of that game plan into what they do with Lamar. I do expect a complete sellout to try and stop the run. And the Ravens have to be very, very good and very ingenious in terms of picking up what they need to do in terms of blitzes, stunts, and anything covering from level 2 in terms of figuring out that sim pressure, and give Jackson an extra half second to a second to throw. If he gets moving around against that situation, it's game over, because there'll be a lot of big plays created by it. But if he can even get an extra half second, it'll be dangerous. Lamar, not an on-schedule thrower, by the way. He's a guy who waits for routes to break open, needs to see it, but then he has a big advantage throwing under those circumstances. And Zay Flowers in particular, as you haven't mentioned, is a tie. No one this year has been able to cover Zay Flowers. In particular, he's a lighter guy, does not have to sink his hips at all at the top of the stem. Now, what the effect of that is, he doesn't give away what he's going to do in terms of a route. He's a stick his foot in the ground and go guy. Most receivers, in order to decelerate properly and make a move on a cornerback, they have to try and sell it, and they have to sink their hips. They have to do what they call in scouting sitting in the chair in order to make a move on their defender. Zay Flowers doesn't do that, and he's deadly, and it's been crossing the field from the top of the stem. He's been really dangerous, and that requires a little more time, and that's why the Flores blitz could be very dangerous in this one.
And that's kind of what I was getting to. I think they will blitz quite often. You know, we talked about it on your show, 43.7% with Brian Flores. He does have some experience with his defense and playing Lamar Jackson and having some success. But will he be able to, have the time to really get to those routes? Because if I'm the Vikings, if I'm selling out on the blitz as well too, I'm probably going to try to jam as much as I can at the line Zay Flowers, because he is a really good route runner. How does he do with that?
Okay, so first of all, the last Flores game, it was no jamming. They played like 6-7 yards off soft, because they couldn't afford to give up big plays when you're rushing everybody. I would not think it's very unusual to jam across the line and show 7. So you have to really play off coverage, because there's no safety behind you. So
Sure.
you have to allow yourself to play downhill. Now that does allow time for slants and other things to happen. And if somebody breaks open in that regard, then you have a problem. But even if you have one jam on a player like Flowers, If you miss it, it's probably going to be a touchdown because there's no safety in these Flores blitzes that I'm describing.
Sure. Mark Andrews. This has been somewhat of an issue. We've seen it, last few games that we've had, Sam Laporta, whether it be Dallas Goedert, good tight ends, which I still think Mark Andrews has a lot left in the tank. He's not an older tight end. What is he, 29, 28, 29 now?
I think he's either 29 or 30. I'm not sure.
He's not extremely old as a tight end. I still think he's got a lot left in the tank, and he's kind of always been, that guy that Lamar Jackson can count on in that offense, and they have like that special chemistry. And Mark Andrews does a really good job too. You will see with the Vikings, they do play zone uh, quite often at different times to where that's where tight ends have been really successful, especially the really experienced ones like a Mark Andrews, and just finding those open spots in the zone, sitting in it.
Well,
And
that's central to playing the Ravens, period, because you have to play zone against Lamar Jackson, period.
mhm,
You don't try and play man because you can't lose track of him personally and have him make a big play. But the other thing is that Lamar Jackson and the Henry mesh point move your linebackers around. So if you don't have super savvy linebackers who don't take false read steps and don't overread on a play, they get burnt by the mesh point, and somebody will be out of position. And frankly, it's been a problem more for NFC teams. The divisional teams have much more understanding of what their assignments are when they play Lamar. The NFC teams, he's burned them. And if you look at Lamar's record against the NFC, I think he's had 1 or 2 career losses. Actually, might be 2 now. They lost the Lions, and they haven't played the Packers. They beat the Bears, and we're playing the Vikings now. So now he didn't lose to the Rams. He did not lose to the Rams. So he lost the game to the Giants. And I think he might be still like 22-1, but it might be 23-2, or that's the range against the NFC. And NFC teams, just when you don't see them regularly, you just don't have the same understanding.
in the Ravens with Lamar Jackson at the helm are just almost unbeatable when they're facing NFC teams. So that is one thing to take in consideration. I'd much rather face them at US Bank than face them in Baltimore. That's for sure. The next on the list I have is Rashad Bateman. Now, we got to watch him at the U of M quite a bit. So those of us in Minnesota that were watching him as a Gopher, he has a lot of that deep threat to him. The Vikings like to play a lot of that bend don't break type defense. Not saying Rashad Bateman can't do some of those other things, but the Vikings like to pride themselves in not giving up those big plays. But we've been vulnerable to them against the Eagles, and then also in that at the end of the Lions game. And if you ask, again, taking a look at the game tape, Jameson Williams on Isaiah Rodgers, it looked to be like there was a push off there that wasn't called. But again, we usually have played really good top shell coverage to where we were able to not give up those big plays and at least have a safety over the top for help. So that's why I have that matchup favoring the Vikings in that situation.
I mean, Rashad Bateman's been underutilized this year. That's been a problem. Part of it's been Lamar being out for 3 games plus a quarter. He had the best year for a Ravens wide receiver last year in terms of yards per target in their 30-year history at 10.5. So, they just extended him for an extra 3 years at an incredible bargain price. So hopefully he is a guy who will produce for the Ravens. I'd love for it to be this week, but it might not be, and we'll see how that goes.
Now, the next segment that we're going to go ahead and jump into is going to cover the keys of the game. Before we do that, I do want to give a shout out to our last sponsor, which is Homage. If you take a look up top, homage.sjv.io/Vikings, that's one of the ways that you can support us. And again, they have great, comfortable clothing, looks great, feels great. And again, they do have different NFL teams with, some great quality t-shirts, clothing, hats, different stuff out there. So Legendary is comfort with Homage. Go ahead and check them out. And here's a quick ad. right, Ken, for this next segment, for the keys of the game, I'm going to go ahead and let you take us through, because these are your 5 keys to the game of why you think, or what you think the Ravens need to do to come away with the W. So the
All
first
right.
one you have, I know you had said that you couldn't see it, so I'll read these
No,
off to
I
you.
can see it fine
Oh,
now.
you can. All
Yeah.
right, we're good.
All right, let's number one for me is the Wiggins Humphrey matchup versus Jefferson and Addison. This is an area where the Vikings certainly have an advantage over the Ravens. Wiggins is terrific, really underrated. He's been playing primarily right corner now. He was traveling with the best receiver. I don't really expect that against the Vikings, who present multiple threats. I think he's more valuable staying at right corner, where he's most typically opposite the X receiver. Now, what's the significance of that? I'll just say the primary significance is that's where the space budget for the offense is concentrated. Okay, so most NFL formations are 3-by-1 and not 2-by-2, and there often are 3 guys to the right side, because most teams are right-handed in terms of that's where they want their tight end for run game purposes. Not exclusively, it's just more predominant. So the guy who plays right corner is often dealing with a bigger element of the space budget for the opponent. Wiggins has terrific makeup speed. He was a 4.28 guy coming out of the draft, and is a guy that he's the Ravens defensive back who can really run. So anyway, he's the biggest factor they have there. Humphrey's older now, very physical corner, works very well, I think, on the heavy side of the field. I'll say, working along with Hamilton. Those two that is an unbelievably physical pair of cornerbacks in terms of what they do. I'm calling Hamilton a cornerback here. He's a slot corner, but he's really a safety and more like a really large edge rusher, pushing people around. Very hard to block. But Humphrey, in terms of this, he's been a little bit easier. He's been beatable this year. He's having his worst year of his career. So he's a guy I'm very worried about whoever they line up there. You mentioned that they've moved Jefferson all over the field. They played him some in the slot, some X, Y, and Z. Could be a lot of ways. I anticipate if they put him in the slot, they'll try and get very physical with him and with Hamilton. If they put him on the outside, they'll try and run with him with Wiggins, or they'll try and double him if they have Humphrey on that side.
All right, and then going into your number 2 key to the game, you got edge setting and run containment. Take us through that.
So the Ravens have had a lot of problems at outside linebacker keeping people healthy, and they haven't had enough bodies. The last 2 weeks, they've activated only 3 outside linebackers for each game, and this is in a 3-4 defense. They're a heavy rotational scheme. No one plays 90% of the snaps or anything. Terrell Suggs did at one time, but not anymore. They don't have anybody who does that. They traded Odafe Oweh. The very next week, Tavius Robinson went down with an injury, and they signed Carl Lawson, the ex-Bengal, who was with the Cowboys last year and had 5 sacks, but he's still on the practice squad. Was not elevated today to play in the game. They did trade for Draymond Jones from the Tennessee Titans, who they expect to come in and be a decent combination of an edge setter and a guy who can rush the passer and hopefully provide something there. And they have the rookie Mike Green, absolutely outstanding prospect. Tremendous pressure rate at Marshall, led all of college football in sacks last year. Should be a good player, but he's really been abused in his rookie season in terms of where his playing time is coming. So that's hurt the Ravens and it's hurt his development. Not the greatest run defender and hasn't really shown the pass rush productivity that we projected for him. I think it's largely a function of not being able to be a situational pass rusher as a rookie. Terrell Suggs played 39% of the snaps as a rookie, even though he went on to be a 95% per year snap guy and a Hall of Famer, or soon to be Hall of Famer anyway. But so far they haven't been able to afford Green that same advantage. And so that's been tough. And the other guy, David Ajabo, who you probably remember from Big Ten play at Minnesota, he was at Michigan, terrific college player, and he's been a terrible pro player. A lot of people just want to ascribe it immediately to the injury that sapped his explosiveness and whatnot. I think he's probably overrated in multiple ways. The Ravens got him in the second round. It was supposed to be a real value pick because he was hurt. And he's never been any good. So that's been a shame. And I kind of hope that the acquisition of Draymond Jones combined with an elevation of Lawson, which didn't occur, would mean fewer snaps for Ajabo, but he'll apparently be out there and playing a fair amount this week.
these next two, I think are, keys to the game for, both teams. The Ravens run game versus the Minnesota front seven. Derrick Henry is going to be a beast. No matter who he's playing, but now that he's got Lamar Jackson back, like we spoke about, those two go together so well. Um, which one do you jump on? Do you chase the run, or do you chase the contain on Lamar Jackson play action?
So most of this is working through the mesh point when we're talking about the front seven. And the Ravens have multiple elements of misdirection they use when they're trying to get your linebackers misplaced and lost in the fog somewhere.
Hmm.
The first, they use a lot of jet motion, and they have multiple weapons who can do that. They can use Flowers in that regard. Tylan Wallace has done some of it, but the big one that's coming back is Keaton Mitchell, who's got up to 10 snaps this last week. People will remember the name maybe 2 years ago. Keaton Mitchell had the most productive season in NFL history for a running back with 40 plus carries, averaging over 8 yards a carry, a terrifically dangerous player. And the Ravens' loss of him to injury, honestly, really, I think, put a stake in their 2023 title hopes, which was really unfortunate because he was a great, great football player. And then it cost him really all of the 24 season getting healthy. Now he's back. He's shown some explosiveness getting to the outside. The Ravens use other things to misdirect. They use a series of counter plays, and they don't necessarily run to the side where the two pullers are moving. So oftentimes you'll see a guard tackle guard tackle or center tackle will be pulling in one direction. And sometimes the run will go that way, and other times they'll go the opposite way. And it's usually when they have Mitchell there, they don't even worry about the blockers in front of him. They're trying to run him all the way to the edge and get him to beat the edge. So those are elements of front seven play. The other one we talked about a little bit in terms of the mesh point, that edge defender needs to make a decision. And I'll just say Lamar Jackson is one of the greatest athletes in the history of any sport in terms of reading opposing leverage. So the guys who are in the same class in football are Barry Sanders and Gale Sayers. The only guy I could think of in another sport is even close is Muhammad Ali. And I'm talking about before the suspension. If you've ever watched the Sonny Liston fight, he just couldn't be hit. He was reading everything Liston was throwing at him before he did it. And it was comical how much he was missing. That's what Lamar Jackson can make people look like when he's doing it right. He certainly reads edge defenders very well in terms of whether they're crashing and whether he needs to hold the ball or not. Sometimes people complain about he's not running enough or Henry's not running enough. It's all about what the defense does. It's dependent on the edge defender decides who keeps the ball.
Absolutely. And, Lamar has, made his money, whether it be in college at Louisville or with the Ravens, with that. He's been very good, not only with now he has really just adapted as a true passing quarterback, I would say. We saw that last week with 4 passing touchdowns. He has the ability to do that. I don't look at Lamar Jackson and think, that he can't beat you with his arm. Yes, do you have to limit his ability to be able to run on you and get additional first downs? Absolutely. But he's got more weapons now than what he had before, and he's shown the ability to not only be accurate on short, mid passing throws, but he could throw the deep ball really well too, I think.
I'm not disagreeing with any of that. Lamar, I mean, the notion that Lamar Jackson is a running back is something that has still tossed out there. I go to a barber shop in Baltimore, and there's still a guy who's sure that Lamar Jackson is never going to be any good or is never going to win a Super Bowl. And I can't.
Are you watching the games?
Yeah. That's exactly it. I mean, look at who Lamar Jackson is as a passer, and you see, the most successful passer in the history of the National Football League, and I just do not get it.
Early in his career, I think he kind of had that label put on him, and I think he's, for some people that maybe aren't watching, he still has that label maybe for them. They've heard it once before, and that just kind of sticks. But if you're watching the games, that's absolutely not who he is as a player. He's a dual threat quarterback that's really great at both. So, Lamar versus the Minnesota Blitz. I don't know if you want to talk any more on that.
Just that we've seen this movie before, and this is where it could get dicey for Lamar and for if their offensive line does not pick up stunts and blitz as well, if they don't have some effective blocking from their eligible receivers, it'll be tough. Lamar has seen this before, and I'm sure it's one of the things they'll really look at in terms of the advanced scouting for this game is what Flores did to him last time. Because first of all, the Ravens did not lose another game by 2 scores until week 4 of this year with Lamar starting. So it was a 4-year period in there. They didn't lose a game by 2 scores. But the Flores and then the Dolphins beat Lamar 22-10 in 2021. And that game was I thought it might provide a blueprint in a lot of ways, but other teams have been loath to be as extreme about it. I don't think Flores will be. I think he'll be very extreme in trying to go after Lamar, and they need to prove very quickly that it's a big mistake to do so. They need to show him early there. I don't want Lamar taking a lot of hits from this. I want to see some big plays develop early to demonstrate that this is not the right thing.
Now, and this probably goes for both teams. Maybe a lot of time and personnel have changed in between. This isn't the Dolphins, but Lamar Jackson is a different player with different weapons as well now too. But how much do both teams put into that Miami Dolphins game versus the Ravens? How much tape do you watch, and how much can you really take from that? Because Brian Flores' defense has evolved since he was with the Dolphins. There are some tendencies that are the same, but that defense and his scheme has evolved since he's been here in Minnesota.
Okay, so everyone is trying to do this against Lamar this year. Everyone is trying to stack the line of scrimmage. It's not just a factor of Lamar. They want Henry to not be effectively running the ball.
Mm-hmm.
They think that the better chance to beat the Ravens has been to force the throw. One thing that's hurt the Ravens in a significant way that requires a little bit of explanation, but if I've got time, Steve, I'll explain a little further.
Sure.
But the Ravens' offensive results have been highly barbelled this year. So they've had a lot of very explosive plays and a lot of negative plays and a lot of much more than normal negative plays that have, when they're in the middle of a drive, they have a chance to stall it. So some of it is penalties, but they've also given up some longer sacks. They've had some negative runs in some high leverage situations. And offense, by its nature, wins with less variance. Now, this should be obvious, but 3 yards in a cloud of dust, if you hear that Woody Hayes say that, the reason that's an appealing kind of a strategy is because you can get 12 yards and 4 downs. And if you could do that every time, you'd march right down the field, score every time, and hardly ever let the other team score touch the football. So in today's NFL, where expected yards per play are significantly higher, it's the defense that is playing as the player in the offense's house, if you want to think about it, in terms of who has the advantage. And so the house really, or the offense really wants to limit variance and wants to win by doing so. The Ravens have not proven that they have an easy way to do that this year, and defenses are seeking variance by getting the line of scrimmage and forcing the risky throw. But I'm an actuary by training. This is at the heart of what has made the Ravens have difficulty this year, is their lack of ability to reduce that variance in their offense by play.
Your last one, take care of the football, convert turnover opportunities. I think that goes for both teams, but this is definitely something where I give the advantage to the Ravens because the Vikings have not been good with protecting the football. We've been losing the turnover battle consistently, except for last week. We gave up one, we got one. We have not been taking away the ball on the defensive side, really since week 3. So we've really had some trouble in that area. Hopefully, after last week's win, the momentum, we can keep that going. But then again, you're going against one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, and we talked about the passer rating. For Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry is no slouch. He's not exactly. Now he did have a costly fumble this year that cost the Ravens a game, but counting on Derrick Henry to cough up the ball isn't exactly something you want to count on either. But I definitely think this is something that the Vikings have to also do, is take care of the football, because the Ravens are definitely going to make them pay if they don't.
It's tale of two seasons really for the Ravens. They're 4-0 the last two games and winning two straight. I think they might have been 1-1 or 2-1 against the Browns in terms of turnovers. So they've been 6-1 in the 3 wins, and they've been horrific in the other games, just absolutely horrible. Now they're 0-5 in those games, so it really shouldn't be that surprising that would be the case. But their turnover ratio for the year, turnover plus minus, is still negative for the year. I think the Vikings are at -4, and the Ravens might be at -2. So it's not two teams that are really doing well in this statistic.
No, and it's really deceiving because early on we were able to kind of get a jump, especially with what we had in the Bengals game. That gave us that kind of bolstered um, our stats, and it really made that lopsided. But consistently, we have not been on the winning side of the turnover battle here lately. So thanks again, Ken, for your keys to the victory. I'm going to go ahead and roll into mine. Feel free to jump in as well. But jumping to the Vikings key to the victory, what I think we need to do to win, number one, is obviously with a bullet, Lamar Jackson. Our ability to have pass rush and have containment on him is going to be crucial for us. Lamar Jackson, like we talked about, he can hurt you with the pass, he can hurt you with the run, but trying to contain him in the pocket is easier said than done. I can put that on paper, but trying to actually do that in theory is going to be tough. Brian Flores, he's going to send a lot of blitzes. He's going to try to stop that run game. And yes, we're going to do what other teams have, and we're going to try to make Lamar Jackson pass to beat us. And he's been successful. Look how that worked out last week. He didn't have to run. He still had 4 touchdowns, 204 yards, I think, passing. But he didn't need to do much more than that. They played good, sound defense last week, I thought, too. The Ravens did. And going into number 2, J.J. McCarthy needs to be accurate, especially outside of the pocket. We talked about that in the Film Study podcast. One of the things I wanted to see him in his first game back was him being able to step into throws, having our offensive line, giving him more time, being that they're healthy. That was a huge thing last week. He made some huge throws. Uh, JJ can't be throwing off of his back foot. He needs to be accurate. And the only way for JJ to really, that I've seen him be accurate is when he's stepping into those throws. Now, we've seen JJ outside the pocket where he did a really good job last week as far as not just being committed to the run when he's outside of the pocket because, hey, his reads aren't there. Now, when he does that, he was keeping his eyes down the field and he was looking for opportunities for receivers to get to that second route. And the thing that we didn't really see is him capitalize successfully on throws last week. So step one was, hey, now he's at least got his eyes down the field. He's scanning for some of those plays and looking for those opportunities. Now you just got to step into the throw a little bit. Easier said than done as well on the run. But when you're throwing off your back foot, he just hasn't been accurate. And that's where we've seen him be behind the receiver that caused the interception to Terrion Arnold last week and just some missed opportunities. Put it right on the receiver, lead the receiver a little bit, and we're going to see a lot better success in the future for JJ McCarthy.
Ravens have had some pretty decent success against shorter quarterbacks. Russell Wilson in particular is one. Even the guys who are like 6 feet even, who had some difficulty over the years. Andy Dalton would be in that group. I'm trying to think of who else really fits in. But shorter quarterbacks have generally not been super successful against the Ravens. Now, I don't know that we can say this defense is as good as it has been, or that McCarthy fits into the group with some of these older guys like Wilson. But that's an area where they've been pretty good in the past.
Absolutely. Not completely insane wants to ask, and I'm in between this, but I'm going to go ahead and get to your question. You say, do you think that the Ravens are just too physical for the Vikings, or am I just drinking the Ravens propaganda? I don't think that's the case, and I think the litmus test will obviously be shown on the game tomorrow, but we haven't been healthy. So, last week we saw a victory against a Lions team that was supposed to absolutely stomp the Vikings in Detroit. And we saw that wasn't the case. We came out and early on, you saw, hey, this could be a game. And the big part of that was that the defense We got some healthy pieces back in Andrew Van Ginkel and Blake Cashman. We got healthy pieces back on the offensive line, such as our bookend tackles, and then also having Donovan Jackson back. And, Blake Brandell has moved to center. And we've kind of now have an offensive line that is complete, gaining chemistry, and we weren't a sieve. And no offense, but playing individuals like Justin School at the tackle position, he's a backup for a reason. That's not going to give you much success against top pass rushers on any team in the league. So, do I think that they're more, if we were still injured and beat up, and if we rewind to 2 weeks ago when we played the Ravens, this would probably be a pretty ugly game. I do think that we come in with a chance, being this team. We talked about this early in the season. Again, this is on paper, but last year we were a 14-win team. And at least the moves that we made in the offseason, we should get better as long as we have good quarterback play. And again, you say the should.
But there's nowhere to improve from 14-3. Let's face it.
No. As a team, though, I mean, some of the holes that we had, I think we plugged some of those holes that we had last year. We made improvements on the inside pass rush, and we are sacrificing a little bit on the run stop game, but we've seen the last couple of weeks where we've been getting better at that, especially getting Blake Cashman back, and then the emergence of Eric Wilson has made us a little bit more complete at the linebacker position. So I don't think that that's the case as far as being too physical, but yes, they are absolutely a physical run team up front.
Let me address this, Steve. Let me have a chance to address this too, because it's a good question. It's a legitimate question. I think it's something the Ravens always try and be is bigger than their opponent whenever they can. And they are absolutely enormous in the middle of the defensive line right now. They're effectively playing two nose tackles every single play. Now, the problem is not to worry about physicality in that question. The problem is to see how you can exploit the fact that the Ravens are going to have less pass rush from two nose tackles on the field. Sure. So that would be the thing. The other place where the Ravens are immensely physical is on the side of the field with Humphrey and Hamilton. They're extremely physical in the secondary. Roquan Smith also a very physical player as well. So yeah, I think it would be fair to say that they're the more physical team. And you were telling me, I think I looked it up. I don't believe that the 291-pound interior defensive lineman you mentioned, he's actually playing nose tackle. I think he's playing 3, but that's still small to be a 3. Who's the guy? Pretty good pass rusher. Okay, and that's very small to be playing 3 tech in the NFL right now. And the Ravens have Daniel Faalele, who will probably be opposite him. He hasn't been great, but he's a 370-pound offensive lineman that he'll be trying to match up against.
And we know Faalele. So we've seen him too. But I just think that with our team, especially on the offensive side of the ball, we just haven't been healthy. So it's easy to say, hey, we're gonna have issues on our offensive side of the line. But coming into this game, we're the healthiest that we have been. And coming into the season, again, on paper, if we were going to be healthy, we're thinking, hey, we should have one of the top offensive lines in the league. We just haven't been healthy at all. So not having Ryan Kelly at center, yes, that hurts. But Blake Brandell has filled in admirably, and he is a bigger center. So that does help a little bit to where he has the ability at that position to play big too against a bigger nose tackle type front that we're going to see from the Ravens.
Yeah, I think the game might well come down to who has Travis Jones one-on-one when he's at 3 tech. So that'll typically be the right guard. That should be a pretty big mismatch. Jones has been healthy and very effective the last couple of weeks in terms of getting pressure. So that's a place where I would say the physicality certainly favors the Ravens.
Yeah, he'll probably see more of Will Fries and O'Neal on that side of the ball a lot of the time, depending on how many they're sending. Moving on to the run game for the Vikings, Aaron Jones will be playing. He will be active in this game, and then Jordan Mason versus that Ravens front seven. We kind of just covered that, I guess, as we were talking through that. I think that's crucial for us, having a run game and not putting it all on JJ Soldiers' shoulders. If we're going to win this game, we have to be successful in the run game. Um, yeah, it's going to be crucial. So having Jones back, that did help. It kind of gives us an opportunity. They are totally different styles at running back, so that gives us the opportunity to kind of play with what's working, keep the other guy fresh as well too. Vikings receivers versus the Ravens secondary, and Ken talked about this as well too. We have to be successful there. We have to be able to make sure that we're giving JJ the ability to have, really get to our routes. And whether that is JJ not having enough time and we have to run some different routes that are less time developing. That's something where we've been critical as well too, where we see, how the Lions use St. Brown, or how Seattle uses JSN. They run a lot of different slants. They get the ball out quick to those guys to where they're getting the balls in their hand, and people are saying, "Well, look how Cincinnati's using Jamar Chase. How are we not getting the ball to JJ 20 plus times a game?" Easier said than done for that, but can KOC put these Vikings receivers in situations where JJ can make quick throws to them to get the ball into their hands to try to make plays? That is something to be seen. This Ravens secondary has been really good, and they're coming on late in the season as well too. As Ken had mentioned, they're getting back some players too, so it's going to be tough. It's going to be crucial that JJ has time in the pocket to get through his reads, and hopefully, our Vikings receivers can get separation. Number 5, when I'm talking about mixing up the offensive tempo, keeping the Ravens guessing between run and pass. Basically, this also depends on the Vikings being able to keep this game close. So whether that be us with the lead or the Ravens have the lead, if this starts getting into a track meet and the Ravens get up by double digits, it's going to be tough to stick to the run game, especially in the second half of this game. And then that's going to be something where we're going to be relying on JJ to make good, accurate throws and smart plays. So being able to have a balanced offense like we did last week, we saw that was an overall team win against the Detroit Lions. So hopefully we can do more of the same against the Ravens, be balanced in our offensive approach, and play good defense. So that's my Vikings keys to the victory. And one thing I want to do before I get in is, Ken, I'm going to give you a little bit of time to get your thoughts together for a final game score prediction. So I'm going to go ahead and go first. I'm going to go first. I'm going to let you have a few seconds to think about this if you haven't already. But my score prediction, this could be a homer approach to it. I think that we ride the momentum into this game, and I think that we're able to get the win. I'm going to go with Minnesota Vikings 27, Baltimore Ravens 24. I'm hoping that getting healthy, the momentum off of the last game, and we're able to just contain as much as we possibly can Lamar Jackson, be successful against the run with Baltimore.
Okay.
I'm going to go Vikings 27, Ravens 24.
Okay. I don't do score predictions on the Know Your Foes show, but Skull. In terms of which player on each side of the ball, that's what I ask in my show. So that's what I'm going to tell you. In this case, has the biggest advantage with Minnesota Vikings. I say on the defensive side of the ball, it's probably Travis Jones against your right guard Fries. If it's not, it's Hamilton being the all-purpose Mr. Everything in there. In terms of the biggest guy on offense who has the advantage, and I pick somebody other than Jackson, then I think it's probably Flowers, is a guy that no one has been able to cover so far. And if your linebackers start to get out of place, it creates a lot of space between level 2 and level 3 where he likes to operate crossing the field. So those are the two guys. And obviously Jackson is the guy who drives everything offensively. So I don't want to pick him.
Well, that's okay. Now, when we took a look at this early on, we talked about this, guys. If we want to make the playoffs, this is a game that it's definitely not a must win because it's the hardest game, I think, that we have remaining on our schedule. But it's one of our home games that we have remaining out of the 5. We're riding a win. It would be huge if we can come away with a W against the Ravens. It's going to be a tough game to try to get that W and get the win. But we probably need 6 of these games that are remaining on the schedule to be able to get a win. So whether that be at Bears, maybe splitting with the Packers, that Seahawks game, that's going to be really tough in Seattle. You know, Jaden Daniels sounds like he doesn't have to have surgery. So is he back when we play the Commanders? The Cowboys, I mean, they started really hot on offense, but the last couple of weeks, their offensive game has been neutralized a little bit, even getting CD Lamb back. The Giants at New York, I definitely think that should be a game that we should win. Um, Lions, again, the revenge game for them, but we get them at home. So can we play them solid and beat them twice in a season where last year, uh, they got us both times, and that was really a crux for us. Um, as far as seeding in the playoffs, can we get them again? And then again, the Packers game, we don't have a date on that as far as that's a flex game right now too, but we're going to end the season at home. And hopefully that's one that we can end the season with a W, and we're probably going to need it at the end of the season in that last final game. That's probably going to determine whether or not we make the playoffs if we can get some wins here. So that's our path to the playoffs. I do want to thank Ken for coming on. And again, if you want to follow Ken, and if there's any Ravens fans that are watching our podcast and following Ken, if you're not already on X at Film Study Ravens, he does breakdowns throughout the week. I saw you also do some different interviews with, you know, do you bring coaches on as well too? I thought I saw.
We have players on sometimes. It's fairly infrequent. The
Yeah.
primary thing is because of my mathematical background. I bring in a lot of people who have new theories about football or new statistics or new methodologies, and I kind of let them vet them on my show, and we talk through those. And I have questions for them, and
Mhm.
my last job as an actuary was in model validation. That's really not a welcome thing in the actuarial world, but the football guys who come up with their models, they really want to talk about them. It's great. It's one of the real things I love to do on the show.
Well, Kent, you've been awesome on the show. I appreciate you being a professional too, because obviously on your show and on my show, we want to see both of our teams win, come away with the W. But tomorrow, I hope that you have an awesome game experience pregame, during the game. I hope it's not as great for you during the game, but I hope that it's a good experience. I mean, obviously, I want my team to win. But I hope that you enjoy your time in Minnesota, find some other good spots to eat while you're there, and have a safe flight home as well.
All right, Steve, take it easy.
Thanks again. And thanks everyone else that's on the podcast that was able to watch and not completely insane for the comments I see in the background. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. No, I appreciate it. And Ken does too. So for Viking Central, he's Ken. I'm Steve. Week 10. Let's go get that W. Skol Vikings.
Big dog gotta eat.